to you. Today is Friday, the 26th of June, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advice reports. So we start right away with the model today as we close the week. And we, particularly today, we're going to look into what is transformation and reinvention, which is the left hand side of the model. So the milestone here is having an edge, right? What makes your company relevant today, and not only today, but in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, whatever is the case that you're looking to establish your company, or the good name of your company remain in the market with more customers, current customers, suppliers, etc., etc. So in the model, the edge connects to performance, strategy, and brand. There is where the full week comes together too, and I'm going to explain this. And let me recap where we are. So on Monday, we introduced a shift from effort to assets. That's at the top of the model, your commercial acceleration, right? So your scalability. On Tuesday, we went on the right side of the model. We look at scaling, where predictability, sorry, that is where the sorry, my apologies. On Monday, we talk about the whole model, the shift from effort to assets. So all how we treat our efforts as an asset. And on Tuesday, we introduce the section that is talking about scaling, where the brand, people, and partnerships must stop depending on you as a founder. On Wednesday, that's right, we looked at the predictability side. So on the right-hand side of the model, where the revenue needs a clearer path and one trusted dashboard. And yesterday, I looked at systems where data protection, IP, intellectual property, and governance, risk, and compliance protects the value of your organization. And right, today is the edge on the left-hand side of the model, which is about keeping the business relevant, right? And this is very important, the relevancy of the business, because many people live on past glories, right? So, or they build the business or they inherited the business, and that is absolutely fantastic. Now, the old model, particularly at the speed that the things are changing today, you can imagine wars that actually are quite close to home now, if you are in Europe or in the Middle East. Affect supply chains, affect oil prices, affect investments, disrupt a lot of social and economic patterns that people were very comfortable with, particularly in Q1 when the Iran situation happened. So you see, all these things actually how makes your business relevant for today's world as they change as fast as they change, and particularly with technology. You see, last week AI announcement, today have a new batch of announcement that last week seems to be old, right? So if you are in and out with the AI, for example, which is the right decision to make to keep your business relevant for the future? So let's take three problems with this. Problem number one is that the success creates comfort. So the current model works, means your business current model works. So your leadership team, yourself, keep protecting it. So the team says, this is how we always have always done it. And yesterday particularly discussed about this particular section. So this is how we have always done it is quite a dangerous statement, because you don't know what is hidden underneath. It might be a lot of things. For example, normalization of a recurring mistake or issue or flow in your processes and systems, right? And system and processes, I mean the operation procedures, your workflows, your intellectual property, etc., etc. So that sentence itself can be harmless, or it can be the early warnings or the warning of a sign of a decline in your organization. Problem number two is that leaders are overloaded with information. As I mentioned earlier, social, technological, economical, everyone has an opinion on AI, automation, pricing, talent, capital, marketing, sustainability, strategy, you name it. But you, as a founder or as a leader of the organization, hears a lot, but the noise does not always become a clear decision what you should decide to do to keep your company relevant for the future. And problem number three is that the company waits too long to refresh its value, right? So the brand gets tired, and you've seen in LinkedIn some of the interesting things, actually, how the brands rebrand or redo their logos, and now it seems everything's similar to one to the other. And anyway, it's all conspiracy theories about that, but they had to refresh. So is it a right decision or a wrong decision? For example, refreshing the colors and the logo. And you have to be very attuned with the reality of your customers to do something like that, because it's a very bold movement, even if it looks like a little thing. So the method gets copied, your intellectual property gets copied if you are not protecting it correctly. So the market moves, as we mentioned. The best people want a clear future because they want a succession plan. There's a lot of uncertainty now with in terms of the AI. Uh, but perhaps it's more noise than reality in many organizations, particularly smaller organizations, not like big, large corporations. Also, your clients start asking harder questions in terms of actually how, if we renew this contract, how we know that we are not betting on a losing horse, as they say, right? But it's a reality. The supply chain is very delicate. So they want to review all the contracts with their suppliers. So if you're supplying clients in services and products or whatever is the case, they are going to review your contracts, right? So by the time the business reacts, and here's a keyword, react, not respond, change is more painful than it needs to be. But if you're responding, it's better than reacting. So now, how this looks like, and let me show you an image because I think it's quite representative of the situation. And let me explain this, how it looks like. So this is how the section of the model that we're talking today. So this is the image that I want to show you because it represents very well this situation. Imagine a business as a ship that has crossed many seas, right? Many seasons, many years. You are quite savvy in what you do. It has served well. It has carried people, client, revenue, reputation, you name it. But the water is changing. The instruments are old. The crew is stretched. The hull has patches. So you don't need to sink the ship to reinvent the whole thing. What you need to is a refeed, if or refit it before the next journey, which is the image on the right. So a better dashboard, a better crew training, or a better assignation of where your team is doing what and when, because many changes are done when people's skills are sitting in a different environment. So you're changing people to an environment now that actually they are very, very strange to it. And they say they were very good salespeople in the field, like a face to face. And now everybody's working remote, for example, and these people are not feeling comfortable because they need to feel the customer vibration, as they made the vibe, as they say. But that is a reality. Or they are very expert in the channel sales. They're very good positioning your partners, your resellers, your ecosystem of distribution, etc. And all of a sudden, you put them to build a new channel of sales, and they are lost because it's not that they are not capable, that's not their expertise, and then the business demands something that is not in the path of where they used to be. And this is not to tell people, oh, reinvent yourself, challenge yourself, this is a new chapter in your life. You have to be very, very careful how you do these reinventions inside your organization, because probably you're going to make the journey for many people very, very hard. And guess who pays or foot the bill at the end? Is a company, it's not the people, right? Because people will leave. With them will leave a lot of things, not only just the capacity of achieving a quota, will leave relationship, know-how, processes, system, you name it. So, and then these people are gone, and then you have to start all from scratch again. The process will take between recruiting, onboarding, and productivity will take anything between 9 months and a year. Is that a real need to do that painful process for everybody when you already have somebody or a team that can be retrofit to satisfy the relevancy that you need for this new chapter in social, economical, or technological. So, as an advisor, what I would propose to consider is the following: use the advisory board as the refit room, right? So treat it like that, not or the yard, the shipyard, not the panic room, not the theater room, because many boards, as we mentioned earlier this week and last week, many companies have chat rooms as a board advisor. They don't have something that is tangible, that measurable, and with real business outcomes. So use it as a refit room for your company. This is where the business asks questions. So, for example, what do we need to update so we stay valuable, right? So this is a good question, because you start to get very specific things. What do we need? Do we need a clear strategy, for example? Do we need a sharper brand? We mentioned branding and logos and colors. Do we need to turn our method into protected asset, like intellectual property? How we monetize that? Do you know there are 5 steps for intellectual property? Many people stay in 2, or at the most 3, but there are other 2 that actually people are not using or companies are not using. Do we need a better capital option? Do we need partnership, other partnerships? What do we need in terms of talent for the organization? Do we need better performance signals? Do we need to stop selling things that no longer fit the future? So the advisory board helps because it's not trapped inside yesterday habits, right? They are not they are not inheriting all these things actually people inside the company have. It brings an outside perspective. It challenges the bias. It asks why. It asks what ifs. It asks what happens next. So all these kind of things are, for people that are not used to it, this is very difficult, but actually it is very, very valuable, because then you start to open up to possibilities that you were not considering before. But it also keeps the reinvention grounded. It's not like let's do everything new. No, it's start to understand what's going on today, what happened yesterday, and where the company wants to go. And sometimes the reinvention is a 1 degree, 2 degree reshaping of whatever you are doing today. It doesn't require much, but that 1 or 2% is so precise that actually it is very effective and efficient, right? So Edge is not a random innovation. It links back to the full operation model that we have in front of us. And actually, we'll put the model again, just we can see this. The reinvention, it charge or address all the operating model. It's not just for one things alone. So if the change helps to scale, it provides a path to improve the brand, the people, and the partnerships, as I mentioned. If the change helps predictability, this 2% also improves the path to improve revenues and assets and capital confidence. So if the change also helps the system at the bottom of the system, it provides a path to strengthen controls, data, intellectual property, performances. And remember, the performance is not a KPI, is if the company is doing what it's supposed to do and how well it's doing it, or what needs to be done to make sure that it's doing it better. So, and also if the change helps your edge, your innovation, your transformation, it provides a path to improve the strategies, your relevance, and the long-term value of your company. So this is a full loop, how it works together, how it helps the organization to understand where they're sitting today, where they are coming from, and where they are going. So the final advantage of an advisory board is this: it helps the company become less dependent on one single individual spreadsheet, or a couple of people that actually knows or thinks that they knows everything, and all the rest pretty much are normalizing several mistakes, issues, workarounds that were designed to cover gaps that today actually are widening, and those workarounds that need to be adjusted again and again and again. Anyway, I don't want to get into those things. But a business has real enterprise value when it still works if the founder steps back. And the founder could be the executive team, could be many people that actually are bottlenecks of the whole organization. This usually is very normal in companies in around 50 employees, 10 million revenues. And I think a couple of weeks ago, I shared with you that in May, I did a study of 40 companies in the northeast coast of the US. Some of these companies 10 years old, other 100 and something years old, and always with the same family. The interesting thing about them is that they stay in business, and some of them were in the mark of 10 million revenue for the past 25 years. So that is to is looking from the outside looks amazing, right? But actually, from the business standpoint, it doesn't look very good, because actually, with just the currency devaluation, that company that used to have 10 million revenue before, today should have 17 millions revenues, not 10 millions for the past 25 years. Yeah, you might say in the middle, there's a lot of changes, economic changes, technological changes, and they kept going with the 10 million. But what happened is that they created their own glass ceiling in 10 millions instead of growing, at least keeping at the pace of the currency valuation. Now, this is where the direction, the advisory board operating system helps. You, as a founder, said to create in your own company a system that helps you to drive what you want to drive very fast, and identify how each sections help each other to make sure that the business grows and scale, instead of having these glass ceilings that I mentioned, for example, with the 10 million revenue. Now, so what do you gain working with me? Three things: business outcomes, differentiators, and risk reduction. In terms of the business outcome, it's a business that becomes more asset-led, more resilient, and more valuable. The differentiator is the advisory board operating system. You get access to an international advisory board, faster implementation than a hiring one executive, lower overhead than a big consulting firm, no talent locked in ability, or the ability to swap members every 6 months as the next challenge changes, right? Because you don't want to create a new thinking tank or thinking group that actually thinks the same things again and again. So as a company evolves and unlocks new potentials, you want to change the members to accelerate that potential and achieve it. And the risk reduction is a strategic drift. Without outside challenge, a business can keep polishing the old model while the market quietly moves. So the advisory board helps you as a founder, as an executive team, as a non-executive director, to refresh before pressure becomes a crisis. So one action you can take home today, and is doable in 30 minutes or less, and let me put a little picture here to illustrate it, that is very helpful, because it shows in an image what words cannot say in thousands of them. So write this sentence: if I left the business for 90 days, the weakness with the weakest areas would be, and choose an advisory board operating system field here. This is scaling, is predictability, is the systems, or is it edge? So the answer will tell you where the advisory board should start. So you already have a starting point. You have the model in front. I discuss this model every week. So you have the model, and then here is a first clue, if you may, to where to start. So you already start to look into design your advisory board on the first issues you can start to identify without drifting. You don't want to have another chat room every month or every quarter. You want to have a board that knows exactly what is the purpose and where it goes. And last week, if you want to see my live stream, I explained which is the first step that you have to take to make sure that your advisory board is extremely successful when you are designing one or you want to put one together. So let's pause here for today and reconvene next week. I will come with a very interesting topic next week, because I'm not going to mention now, because I want to have a relaxed weekend. But if you are leading a company of 50 employees or more, or 10 million revenues, and you want to implement an advisory board operating system that supports scale, predictability, your system, and remember, system is not IT and software, it's also your workflows, your operating procedures, etc., and your reinvention, how to make your company relevant for today and the future, let's have a 30-minute chat so I can understand where you're coming from, where you're today, where you're going, and how we can design together an advisory board that brings you 26% revenue increase and 18% more productivity with a faster implementation than hiring one executive, a lower overhead than the big consulting firm, no talent locked in, as I mentioned, and swappable members every 6 months. Right. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you on Monday. Thank you, and bye-bye.